if you follow what I'm going to show you. There's no doubt that we have a major problem with attention, as well as the hyperactivity that can be connected to it. So I want to discuss this condition, but just be rest assured, there is a very simple solution that has very minimal, if any, side effects. But there's some relationship between the frontal cortex and your ability to concentrate. There's also a relationship between another part of the brain called the hippocampus and your ability to focus and concentrate, which is in the category of cognitive functions. Now, what's interesting about the brain is it's only 2% of your body weight, but takes up 20% of your body's energy and calories. It's an energy hog. Out of all the different organs, it hogs the most energy. And out of all the organs, it is the fattiest tissue. 60% of the brain is composed of fat, which is interesting. Now, one important thing you need to know about attention, okay, is that it takes a lot of energy in the brain to hold your attention, because it's not just holding your attention, it's filtering out distractions and sensory stimulus, things like that. And so if your brain is tired, okay, you're not going to be able to filter out things as much. You're not going to be able to concentrate for a long period of time. So I think a big part of this problem relates to energy in the brain. You've probably been taught that the brain only runs on glucose. And this is a total lie, because you can run your body on ketones. In fact, you can run your body on 75% ketones with only 25% glucose. And that 25% can come from fat, protein, or even ketones. In other words, you don't need any carbohydrates or glucose for that 25% energy. So running your brain on ketones can instantly give you a tremendous amount of energy. And on top of that, ketones are more efficient. And the way to feed your brain ketones is to just lower your carbohydrates. And then your body will start oxidizing fat. And then from that, you'll get ketones. And ketones release less waste in the brain. So it's a cleaner, more efficient fuel source. Now, since we're on the topic of attention and cognitive function, we have to talk about this. I mean, if you are consuming gluten, for example, that's going to affect the gut and that's going to affect your brain. You're not going to be able to think. You're going to be in a constant state of brain fog, like I was for decades. It wasn't until I gave up the grains and went on the ketogenic diet, I felt like a helmet came off my head. I could finally focus. I can finally think. I could hold my attention. So getting rid of the grains on the diet is going to be important. And other things that could be an allergy, like casein, you can have an allergy that can also affect the brain. A lack of sleep is another big factor. Too much caffeine can affect the brain. All of the nutrients, okay, there's several nutrients that are vital for brain energy and to counter this lack of attention. And the biggest one is vitamin B1. If you don't have enough B1, okay, you are going to be in a constant state of restlessness. You're not going to have this calmness. You're going to have maybe restless leg syndrome. You're going to have hyperactivity, especially if you're a child. And you're definitely not going to be able to think that well. But it's going to be mainly related to the brain's energy. So vitamin B1 is one of the most important vitamins to counter this attention deficit, okay? Nutritional yeast is a good source, or find a natural B1. The next most important nutrient is magnesium. Magnesium is necessary to make energy in the brain, or ATP. It's also necessary to calm the brain if you have this hyperactivity. And you get magnesium from leafy greens. How many kids consume enough vegetables? Well, it's very, very few and far in between. But in one study, over 58% of children that had ADHD actually had a magnesium deficiency, which is quite interesting, because if you have a blood deficiency of magnesium, you are very, very deficient. Most of the magnesium is not in the blood, it's inside the cell. And so it will show up as a deficiency in the blood when the cell is severely deficient. And then the next most important nutrient deficiency to consider is potassium. If you are deficient in potassium, because of course you're not consuming enough vegetables, because vegetables really give you potassium and magnesium, you're going to have a difficult time filtering out sensory information or sensory overload. That is going to greatly affect your ability to hold your attention. And then the other one is omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids, DHA, EPA, are essential for your nerves to conduct electricity and information. So unfortunately, too many people, including kids, are consuming so much omega-6 fatty acid, soy, corn, canola oil, and not enough of the fish oils like cod liver oil. But that can make a big difference. When you start introducing someone to cod liver oil or fish oils, they're not going to see a change overnight. You're going to have to do this over a period of weeks to see the change because it's a slow process. Now, there's another really, really good remedy I would recommend as a substitute for Adderall or Ritalin. Now, I'm not telling you to come off your medication. I'm not telling you to substitute. I just want to give you this as a really good solution to present with your doctor in case you want to make a switch. It has virtually no side effects, and it's called DMAE, okay? This compound is actually in sardines, but I would recommend taking it as a supplement. It does several things, but it can help rid the brain waste that can interfere with your focus. It's very neuroprotective, okay? So it's going to help protect the brain against inflammation and oxidative stress and free radical damage, but it increases the receptor's ability to absorb acetylcholine, and that's the main neurotransmitter that you need in these pathways. It significantly and potently increases focus and enhances concentration. So DMAE is what I would recommend as a supplement of choice if you have ADD or ADHD. Now, you're probably also going to notice you're going to sleep a little bit better, and your vision might be a little bit better because it actually gets rid of certain waste that can interfere with your retina, which is an extension of your brain. Okay, number 2, get on the ketogenic diet, do intermittent fasting if you haven't already done that before. And then B1, magnesium, potassium, okay, and omega-3 fatty acids. You can get your magnesium and your potassium from leafy greens in larger quantities. And the next most important video for you to watch would be on how to get started on the healthy version of the ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting. I put that video up right here. Check it out. Hi guys, listen, I have 2,500 videos, okay, on YouTube, 2,500. So sometimes when you go to the channel, it's hard to find where to start because it's all random. So I wanted to create a beginner's video, the basics. So if you're new to my channel, if you have friends and family members that are new to my program, this is the first video to watch. Okay, so let me just kind of break it down. I'll make it really, really fast. Keto or ketosis. What does keto mean? When you burn fat, your fat breaks down into these things called ketones. Your body can then use those as fuel, okay? So your body can actually run on ketones. It's a much, much better fuel source than sugar fuel that most people run on. It's cleaner fuel. It creates a lot of other benefits, which I get into in other videos, okay? So keto basically means you're burning fat, okay? Healthy keto is a version of regular ketosis, but with a twist. A principle that I use is you don't lose weight and get healthy. You have to get healthy first to then lose weight. So getting healthy basically means, in relationship to eating, providing all of your nutrients, okay? So you're eating foods that are high quality, that provide all the nutrients, so you get the requirements that our bodies need. So what I recommend is something called healthy ketosis, all right? So that's the version. The other action that I recommend is something called IF. What is that? That's intermittent fasting. What is that? That is it's not a diet, it's a pattern of eating and not eating. So instead of doing 3 meals or 6 meals a day or snacks in between the meals, you're eating less frequently. Why? Because every time you eat, you raise a hormone, insulin. Too much insulin is very dangerous in the body. So what we're trying to do with healthy ketosis and intermittent fasting is reduce the excess of insulin. We're not trying to make it down to 0. We're just trying to get rid of the excess. The vast majority of the population has excess insulin, but they've never been tested. The doctors usually don't test it. They're focusing on your blood sugars or blood glucose, but not fasting insulin, okay? I have videos on that, but you can watch it in another video, but the point is that we're trying to lower insulin. So to do that, you need to eat less frequently. Let's say you start with 3 meals per day with no snacks, and then you go to 2 meals a day, no snacks, and that would be considered intermittent fasting. And some people do 1 meal a day, but the point is that it's just eating less frequent. It's not necessarily focused on lowering calories. Even though you will be consuming less calories, the focus is not on calories. It's about eating less frequently. At the end of the day, we want to provide all the nutrients, so we need a certain amount of calories. The cool thing about intermittent fasting is that because you're eating less frequent, the requirements for nutrients go down because the body starts being conservative with its nutrients. It starts holding or retaining more nutrients. So what you would need for 3 meals a day, okay, as far as nutrients, you would need less nutrients for 2 meals a day, just because the body adapts. Sometimes people are concerned about losing muscle mass. Well, the other cool thing is that when you do intermittent fasting, certain hormones, like growth hormone, increases dramatically to protect the muscles from being lost. Okay, so your body tends to now conserve protein as well when you do intermittent fasting, so you're not going to lose muscle mass. So the 2 main things that help you lower insulin are the reduction of carbohydrates. I'm talking about the sugar, refined carbs, the grains, the pasta, the cereal, the biscuits, the waffles, the juice, the alcohol. I have a lot of videos on this right here, like a ton, but that just kind of gives you the summary. And also, number 2, eating less frequently. What we're doing when we actually drop carbs and we eat less frequently is we're adapting to fat burning. You're actually making new cellular machinery to run your body on fat fuel, okay, and no longer on sugar. Now, what happens when you consume too many carbs, the insulin comes in and takes it out and converts it to fat. So a lot of the fat on your body right now has came from the carbohydrates, not necessarily the fat that you ate, but the carbohydrates that you ate. The other thing that people don't realize is this: in the presence of too much insulin, you can't lose this fat. So if you have a stubborn metabolism and you can't lose weight, we know you have too much insulin. Is there a quick test to know if you have too much insulin? Yes. Just look down right now, and if you could see your belly, you have too much insulin. Because these are the main symptoms of high insulin: belly fat, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, fatigue, especially after eating, decreased cognitive function, lack of focus, poor memory, moody, irritable, sometimes depressed, grouchy because of the blood sugar issue, cravings for carbs for sure, and you're hungry all the time, especially between meals. When you get your body into fat burning, and now your body is burning fat between meals, because before it wasn't, it was dependent on your diet and dietary sugar. So now when you're burning your own fat, wow, you get rid of the hunger. Okay, you're not hungry anymore. It makes it easy to do this. You don't crave anymore. That's why healthy keto and intermittent fasting is very successful long term, because it allows you to stick to it, because you're not hungry all the time, you're not craving. Sometimes when you look up keto, you'll see this little pie chart thing right here. It'll say 20% protein, maybe 70% or 65% fat as far as the total calories, 5% carbs. Okay, this is very confusing for people because you have to calculate calories into grams and this and that. This is the simplicity right here. If you just envision your plate, okay, this is your plate. Half of the plate should be salad or vegetables, okay? A quarter of the plate should be protein. And the other quarter should be fat. So this 65 or 70% fat, which seems like a lot of fat, now remember, 1 gram of fat is more than twice the calories of carbs and protein. So this is misleading. In reality, the volume of fat is really only, a quarter of your plate. And a lot of this fat is actually mixed with the protein. So it's not as much as you think. And then we have this small amount of carbs out here, just to keep it really, really simple. Okay? And healthy keto and intermittent fasting is not just about weight loss. It's about getting you super healthy, for reducing inflammation, for helping your cognitive function, helping your overall mood, making the body work better. Okay? So now that you have the basics, now you can go to the rest of the videos. Thanks for watching. Hey, if you're liking this content, please subscribe now, and I will actually keep you updated on future videos. All right, guys, you just watched the basic plan, the overview. This is video 2. We're going to dig into some more of the details. This is mainly for people that are new to my channel. Again, I have 2,500 videos, and you can get lost in all the details. This is the second video that you should watch. And we're combining healthy keto with intermittent fasting. Okay, all right, number 1, you want to go as long as you can in the morning without eating. You just don't want to eat unless you're hungry. That's the thing that you need to focus on, because so many people eat when they're not hungry, and they're wondering why it's not working, they're not getting results, because the body finally is burning fat, and then you start eating. What will happen is you're going to raise insulin, and then your insulin's going to come high, and then it's going to push your blood sugars low. Then you're going to be hungry an hour and a half later. So really, it's what you ate the night before that's going to dictate if you're hungry in the morning. If you do this correctly, like I'm showing you, with just 2 meals a day, you're going to wake up in the morning not hungry. So the goal is to go as long as you can. You may find that you can't go all the way to lunch. You have to eat at like 11 o'clock. Fine, eat your breakfast there. Okay, but what will happen, you want to keep pushing it to the point where your body is fully adapted to fat burning. You're no longer sugar burning. That could take 3 days up to 5 days. Sometimes it takes longer to get into full ketosis. All right, so that's the first rule of thumb. If we can do 2 meals with a 4-hour window, okay, and what that means is that we eat and then we wait 4 hours and we eat again, that's your window. That will give you a 20-hour fasting period. That's incredible. That's enough to see some serious results. The only time that would not work for someone as far as weight loss goes is, let's say they're going through menopause, they have a slow thyroid condition, and they have a history of dieting, and their metabolism is so slow, they're going to have to push these together and have 1 meal a day, and then they will lose weight. And there are even people that still will lose just a little bit on this, and they might need to go even longer because their metabolism is so dead. And I've had this happen, not to a lot of people, but certain people that just, from birth, they just had a slow metabolism for one thing or another, and they need to go probably eat every other day. Okay, that's just what they need to do until the system heals. But for everyone else, we're going to talk about what are you going to eat on this first meal and the second meal. I've surveyed a lot of people, and this is what they eat, and this is what I eat. Eggs. I do 4 eggs a day. You can do 2 to 4 eggs. Pasture-raised organic eggs, they're a little more expensive, but they're worth it. Now, it's really important to eat healthy eggs because the factory farm eggs are just so bad. They're just terrible. Then we have avocado. Avocado has tremendous amount of potassium and really good fats to help you go longer. Cheese. Now, if you are a guy and you have a prostate condition, don't do the cheese. But if you have a high quality organic cheese from a grass-fed cow, goat's cheese is even better, not a problem. Okay, so then we have bacon. Some people don't want to do bacon. That's totally fine. I like bacon. I do bacon from the farmer's market. If you're going to go to the health food store, get the nitrate-free organic bacon with sugars less than 1 gram, okay? Bacon, by the way, in pork has high levels of vitamin B1. And for those people that are saying bacon is unhealthy, yet they're consuming chicken, I would beg to differ, because chicken is really disgusting unless you're doing, again, from the farmer's market. Okay, nut butters. You can do almond butter, peanut butter, make sure there's no sugar in it, maybe a couple tablespoons. Now, the reason for this is to give you enough fat, especially in the beginning, so you can go longer, okay, without getting hungry. You're eating at 12, you have a hamburger or a piece of meat. or a lamb or whatever meat that you want, 3 to 6 ounces. Let's say you're younger and you have a faster metabolism, then you do 8 ounces. Let's say, for example, you're an athlete, you do 8 ounces. Let's say you're a very large person, you need more protein, do 8 ounces. I wouldn't want to go over 8 ounces per meal. Now, we're not talking about actual protein grams, we're talking about the actual product of meat itself, okay? 3 to 6 ounces or 8 ounces. So you don't have to calculate the grams inside that meat. It is a big difference. And then we consume our vegetables. You can steam them. You can have some raw or the salad. I do a lot of salads. We need a large amount of salad. So some people break up their salad between this meal here and this meal, and they do maybe 5 cups and 5 cups, or maybe 4 cups and 4 cups. I mean, 4 cups is not that much. It's kind of like a medium-sized salad. I personally do all of my salad at one sitting. I'll do like 10 cups, and sometimes I'll do more than that. So I'm used to it. If you feel worse with consuming those greens, that means that your microbes are not quite in the right place. You might have a condition called SIBO. I'll put a link down below, in which case you want to cut back on your vegetables, because what's going to happen, the fiber in the vegetable is going to retain fluid. And you're going to feel bloated, and your weight loss is not going to come off. It's not because you're not losing weight, it's because you're retaining fluid. Okay, just realize you want to feel good after consuming this, and you may have to eat small amounts and gradually increase it, because guess who's eating the fiber from your vegetables? The microbes. And they might not be plentiful enough to do that. So there's many different reasons. I'll put a video down below just on that one topic. Olive oil, balsamic vinaigrette is a great dressing. Maybe a handful of nuts, some seeds, because we want that fat. So this is like one option of a meal. This is another option of a meal, just to give you an example. I put a link down below to my website because I have a lot of different examples of different meals. I have a whole recipe, but this would be an example of a typical meal for someone. Okay, let's say you do fish. I love salmon. Salmon is one of the best proteins because it has omega-3. We want to do quality protein. So you can also do sardines. Believe it or not, there are good fats in sardines. I did a video on that. Or seafood, okay? This gives you the iodine. So you do your fish or seafood, your salad, this is for your dinner, and a fat bomb. What is a fat bomb? It's like a little cookie with healthy fats in it. You can make recipes for this. A lot of people consume a fat bomb just to get them satisfied so they can go from one meal to the next. As your body adapts to fat burning, you probably won't even need that because you're burning your own fat, but in the beginning it's really helpful. Here's another option for some food. You can do chicken with the skin preferably, nice and crispy, or chicken wings. Let's say you do, again, 3 to 6 ounces of chicken or chicken wings. You do your protein. It's moderate protein. Asparagus, okay, or any other vegetable that you like, or your salad. And then you do olives as your fat, okay? I do a lot of nuts myself. I do that after the meal to the point where I'm like really satisfied so I can go longer. But the key is not snacking at night. So you want to add enough fat to go from this meal all the way to breakfast. Now, the number one weakness people have, I just realized, was boredom. So you're gonna have to keep really busy right here and make sure you're not bored so you don't eat the wrong thing. You can consume your vitamins. It's not a problem any time of the day. Apple cider vinegar, a teaspoon, and some lemon is really good to have when you drink water. Coffee in the morning, try to just do one. You can do tea. You can add some bulletproof. That's MCT oil, coconut oil. You can blend that in your drink if you want, especially in the beginning, to allow you to go without having the first meal. Not a problem. But if you find that slows down your weight loss as you do this over a period of a couple weeks, then you might want to drop out the extra fat. Urge to snack, that means you need more fat and more greens, more vegetables. Those two things will solve the problem. If you crave bread, you need more B vitamins. I recommend electrolytes, a good powder, and B vitamins and or nutritional yeast. You can get them in tablets. Very important, just to make this transition smooth so you have no problems. Sea salt, don't be afraid to add more sea salt because you're gonna need more salt. You're gonna dump more fluid on this program, and so you have to replace it. The best time to exercise is when you're fasting, so in the morning, okay? It's actually, you'll get better benefits. Realize that it could take longer to adapt, but the way that you know you're in hardcore ketosis is that you crave nothing. You're not even hungry anymore. That's when you know it's really working. Better than any other test. This should give you the next layer of information or knowledge you need to know, and I will see you in the third video. Hey, if you're liking this content, please subscribe now, and I will actually keep you updated on future videos. Welcome. Today we're going to show you how to start keto correctly, and this is for beginners. What are we trying to do? We're trying to switch what your body is running on as far as fuel-wise. So we want to switch from burning sugar fuel to fat fuel. There's this one hormone called insulin, which is the key to determine whether you're going to burn fat or burn sugar. So you want to keep it low to burn fat. When it goes higher, your body will burn sugar. Very simply, lower your carbs and eat less meals. That's different than lowering your calories. Now, by eating less meals, you are going to lower your calories, but that's not the goal. You could actually eat larger meals, just not as frequent. Why is it a good idea to eat less frequent meals? Because every time you eat, you trigger insulin. Every time you eat carbs, you trigger insulin. So we're just trying to lower this insulin. The combination between these two are very, very powerful. So what are you going to eat in a meal? Well, first thing, you have to eat low carbs. So you want to cut down all your carbs. That includes sugar, and I'm talking about honey, agave nectar, brown sugar, white sugar, date sugar, all sugar. You can replace it in various recipes with what's called sugar alcohols. I put some links down below of examples of that so you can learn about that, but there's these sweet alternative sugar sources that you can use. So that means that when you go buy food, you have to start reading the labels and looking at the sugar content. You want it as close to zero as possible. You want to avoid fruit, except for berries. There's 3 berries: raspberries, strawberries, and blackberries. You can have those in small amounts, but no other fruit, especially apples. Grains like wheat flour that they make breads, pasta, cereal, crackers, biscuits, you want to avoid that. But guess what? There's a substitute. People use almond flour to make all sorts of things, from pizza crust to bread to you name it. So there's a lot of recipes that you can use as an alternative grain. Avoid starches like potatoes. But guess what? There's all these recipes that you can make out of cauliflower that is very similar to the starches, not identical, but you can make things that are very close to tasting like mashed potatoes. You can even make a cauliflower crust for your pizza. It's quite good. Now, when I say cut out all the carbs, there's an exception: vegetables. In fact, you want to consume more vegetables, at least 7 cups, even more. That could be salads or other types of vegetables like bell peppers, like cabbage, like broccoli, like kale, Brussels sprouts. And at this level that I'm teaching you, you can even do carrots and tomatoes, beets. Don't worry about that. You can have those. And the last point about vegetables is that ideally, if you eat them first, it's going to be a lot easier to consume 7 cups than after you have the protein and fat, because this is going to fill you up pretty fast. So I always consume the vegetable first. Now you can consume it at the same time, but just as a strategy to make sure you get enough vegetables in your diet, I like to consume these first because very few people consume enough vegetables. And one last point, vegetables provide 2 things. They provide food for your microbes that then help your blood sugars and help give you energy. Also, they provide a lot of nutrients like potassium and magnesium and even vitamin C. Because what are we trying to do? We're trying to do keto correctly. And by correctly, I mean healthily. Okay, number 2, moderate protein. Not massive amounts like in the Atkins diet, but moderate amounts. That could be, depending on your size and your metabolism and your age, between 3 and 8 ounces. Maybe you're 18 years old and you work out hardcore. You're going to need maybe more protein. So rather than have a little scale and measure it, just consume protein the size of the palm of your hand. Maybe a little bit more, a little less, okay? Just to kind of keep it really simple at this level. What type of protein? Different types of meat, fish, chicken, seafood, eggs, cheese, unless you have an allergy or any type of severe gut issue. nuts or nut butters. Also make sure that if you buy peanut butter or whatever, you read the ingredients to make sure it doesn't have added sugar. You don't want to add sugar to any of these, because sometimes when you have like deli meats, they have dextrose in there or extra sugar. If you're having bacon, they have extra sugar added. You preferably keep the sugar away from your protein. All right, with the protein, as far as the order of when you eat it, you just ate your vegetable, your salad. Now you start with your protein. The key with the protein is not to consume lean protein or low-fat protein. Try to consume protein that has more fat. Why? Because that's going to help your insulin levels. When you consume protein that's very low fat and lean, as in like powders, especially like whey protein powder, you majorly increase insulin versus consuming fattier meat or fattier fish, or like brie cheese, which has more fat. So that's a really key point about protein. All right, the third thing is that you're on a higher fat diet. Now, when we talk about higher fats, mainly we're talking about the calories. There's more than twice as many calories in fat than there is protein and carbs. So based on calories, it would be a higher fat diet. So I'm not going to say anything more to confuse you on that point. But realize that when you're consuming the protein, guess what? You're consuming a lot of the fat in your diet already, because protein always comes with fat. But you may add some additional fats. Let's say some avocado, butter to cook your food in, or let's say you melt the butter on your vegetables, which is a good idea because the veggies have certain fat-soluble natural chemicals in there that are good for you, even antioxidants. They're called phytonutrients. And adding oil to your salad, whether it's olive oil or butter over your vegetables, will help you extract those nutrients out of that meal. That's why it's good to combine these things right here. Olives or olive oil is very, very good. Coconut oil is actually also pretty good. And of course, some of these are in the fat category, like nuts, for example, are half fat and half protein, a little bit of carb. Cheese is protein and fat. Eggs are protein and fat. So a lot of these are fat too. So both of these are kind of a combination. But if you're starting keto, a lot of times people add maybe some nuts or cheese after the meal to be more satisfied. So that's something that they do. And so that's why I said eat this third. But of course, it could be within the meal. Now, there's certain fats you definitely want to avoid. Soy oil, corn oil, canola oil, cottonseed oil, even the safflower oil, the sunflower oil, I would be careful about consuming too much of those. These are GMO. They have chemicals in them. But the problem is they're highly inflammatory. Even though it's a fat, it's the wrong type of fat that you want in your body. And you would probably see these in salad dressings and many different products like mayonnaise in there. So you're going to have to kind of start reading labels and really get picky on certain things that you're going to be buying. So we talked about generally what to eat, but we also want to talk about eating less meals, right? Less frequent meals. We're going to do intermittent fasting. We're going to combine both of these together to really take that insulin and bring it down to a normal level. So here's the rule of thumb. Don't eat unless you are hungry. Now, let me define hungry, because sometimes you might get a little bit of hunger, but you still feel strong. You still feel fine. Your mood is good. We'll try to push through that, okay? There's also a difference between hunger and also like a habit. People have like a habit of eating all the time, even when they're not hungry, because they feel that they're not as full as maybe they should be. So you don't have to be full all the time. We're talking about hungry. And a true hunger is like, wow, I feel like I really need to eat. I feel a little bit weaker. I feel a little shaky. I'm starting to notice I'm a little bit more irritable. Okay, that is what we're talking about, not some little temporary hunger. Number two, ideally, you want to skip the breakfast. You can do this on a gradual level where you keep pushing your breakfast later and later and later, or just cut it right out and just skip breakfast. Instead, have your coffee with a little butter in it, a tablespoon of butter, and or MCT oil. which will help you greatly in making ketones, which is very therapeutic to your brain, and it'll satisfy you. So as you're trying to transition into the state of ketosis, which you're burning fat, because ketones are a byproduct of burning fat, if you add MCT oil, that will give you ketones right away, and it'll make the transition a little more comfortable, especially with your cognitive function. So this is a good idea. And if you did this coffee with these two fats, it's going to be very easy to skip breakfast. Also, I want to note that at about 8 a.m. in the morning is when you have this hormonal shift with cortisol might go up, and you may find a temporary, about a half hour, kind of a sense like I'm ready to eat something. It's the cortisol. It's a hormonal shift, and it can increase your appetite. Just ignore that and push through that. Okay? So we're skipping our breakfast at this point. Number 3, very importantly, do not snack through the day. That little snack, even though it's low amount of calories, will make you hungry. Eating stimulates hunger, especially if it's in the form of a snack. So just cut out all snacking. It's very, very important. If you get the temptation to snack, just realize that you didn't consume enough fat at the last meal. So the next meal, add more fat to the diet so you can go easily from one meal to the next. So it's important to add more fat to go longer. There's a lot of details to fill in the blank, but typically you can drink water, tea, coffee, anything without sugar. You can take your vitamins. It's not going to be a problem. And again, there's a lot of details that I'm not covering, but I'm just giving you the basics. So let's say your first meal is at noon. Okay, you eat your meal. Don't really worry at this point about calories because we're not trying to reduce calories. All we're trying to do is have that first meal, make sure it fits what I said in the last slide, and then the second meal at 6. So that gives you a 6-hour eating window and 18-hour fast, okay, if you don't snack, which is huge. This is going to allow you to see a lot of benefits with this program. So that is the summary of how to do keto correctly. Before you go, if you have a question about a product, or you're new to keto and you want to know how to begin keto, or you're on keto and you need a debug because it's not going as smooth, I have a keto consultant standing by to help you. This is just for the people in the US. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to answer everyone's call, but I put the number down below so you can call and get some help.